very good morning to you. Welcome to the Morning Brief right here on Channels Television. I'm Jeffrey Ozai. It's Tuesday, the 4th of March the 24th. That's the day of the week. I'm counting down like Coyote. Hey, welcome.
What are you counting down?
Exactly. Just counting down. Counting down because less than 1 month from now, the primaries windows will be opened. It opens from 23rd of April to the 30th of March. So counting down to what will play out. So permutations as to who is going to be what in the political parties is what we're looking forward to.
Well, nothing really significant. It was just that it's Tuesday, the 24th of March, 2026. Welcome to your Perfect Morning Starter. I'm Bukola Koka.
And I'm Kairi Okikulu. I am surely counting down to when this war, hostilities will be over, because it's clearly affecting a lot of us that are not even involved either remotely or otherwise. And it's part of the unfair nature of the world. The fact that you're not involved in something, you're not a part of it, you didn't decide, you are not consulted, yet you're being directly affected. Why or how? Well, the price of petrol. Today in Nigeria, it's nearing 1,500. And if the war, the hostilities do not end, rather, we're looking at possibly 2,000 or so. I know you're saying God forbid, but we had a billionaire businessman, Aliko Dangote, visiting Niger's President Bola Tinubu yesterday. And part of the questions he was asked was about, well, naturally, the price of petrol. What exactly is going on? And what did he say? Well, he says, truth is, it is not in our hands. We're only using the cards we're dealt at this point. And he sort of said, if this does not end, it will continue. And he even proffered solutions to the challenges, basically saying, well, in other climes, they're doing work from home, they're staggering it. Is that a possibility here? We did that during COVID, but the point is we must begin to think of ways to make life easy for all of us.
Indeed, and you know, if you looked at what is happening closely in the Middle East and the United States of America, you would see that counting down would be more difficult because you know, it's a pressure on one's mental health. On the one hand, President Trump says there is progress with the peace talks, and then Iran is saying no. Talks about peace, you know, from the U.S. president, a fake news. And indeed, just 2 days back, I believe on Sunday, Iran threatened to entirely shut the Strait of Hormuz. So there's no letting up anytime soon on both sides of the divide as far as the instability in the Middle East is concerned. So we may be in for this for a very long time, and we can only continue to, you know, apply pressure on the advocacy for, you know, alternative measures that will ease the pressure on, you know, the pockets, because incomes are not increasing, and many more Nigerians now, and indeed across Africa, would be, you know, paying more for petrol. But there are other issues that we'll touch on later on the program today. We'll be looking at the anti-corruption war of this government, amongst other issues. But let's find out just how long we're going to be in this particular, you know, petrol situation for. And joining us on the program this morning is Mr. Billy Gillis Harris, the president of Petran, who joins us virtually on the show. Mr. Harris, good morning and welcome to the program.
Thank you so much for having me. Good morning.
Yeah, and you know, the president of Dangote refinery was quite frontal about the situation yesterday, and he said we may be in for this for a very long time. And what are your thoughts on his candor?
Well, his candor, I'm completely unable to analyze that, but I think he's speaking the truth. His presentation yesterday showed a man who cares, but, you know, is in a situation where the much he can do is just what he's doing. However, I think this is the time for us as a country to think inwards and begin to find forward-looking solutions in every situation that we find ourselves. We never expected this war. Not that the signs were not there, but it wasn't something that we were prepared for. So what I believe we need to do at this time is just to think inwards and begin to profile solutions for today, and then for the future, and even for the very, very far future. Because this kind of situation can happen anytime. And so we need to be certain that we have our country prepared, to face this kind of challenge.
One would have thought that we should be looking at that visit to the president beyond the surface of it. Of course, the explanation would be that we're visiting the president, to celebrate the Eid with him. But perhaps it's just a follow-up to, the meeting with the press by the CEO of Dangote refinery, asking for a soft landing, sort of, in order to continue to sell petrol and other petroleum products to Nigerians at a reasonable cost, in line with its so far, trajectory of patriotism in its service in the oil sector. So what are your thoughts on what could be the possible outcome of that engagement with Mr. President? Are you looking at it beyond what seems to be the surface of it?
Like I said, it's completely difficult to analyze what is expected or anticipated. If I had a visit with the president, I believe that I would be looking at discussing with the president on exactly how solutions can be profiled. And but in this case, it's already profiling the solution, which is why we are thankful that Dangote refinery is here and is actually a very strong support structure, for our energy provision at this time. But I think that at other times, there have been suggestions also of how the government can come in and make some sort of palliatives to help cushion this effect. And I lend my voice also to that, that what we should be looking at today should be solutions, not to, cry, on the shoulders of this war, but to be able to find solutions as to how we can solve this problem and look for solutions even into the future. So if I had the opportunity to talk to the president, that's what I'll be discussing. One of those things will be the total, pursuit on our gas alternative. Ensuring that we have, because we have gas, so it's not like we are going to import gas from anywhere. And what we need to do is just walk the rope and then ensure that we have gas properly harnessed, bring the necessary investments, because we are not reinventing any wheel, it's just plug and play. So if we have sufficient border stations, sufficient daughter stations of CNG, introduce a lot of EV operation into our mobility and energy dependence, that will certainly help cushion some of these effects. But in the interim, what I would have recommended is, could there be some sort of urgent intervention to cushion the effect of transportation, and also appeal to the transport owners, especially commercial transport owners, that we need to, look at our businesses from the point of ensuring that other Nigerians also survive. For instance, for us in Petrol, our profit margin at this time is still very minimal. The size of what is being sold at the pump price does not in any way translate to how much profit we're making, because we are still very mindful, that we need clients, we need patrons in our retail outlets to be able to buy our products for us to turn it around as fast as possible. So we are not taking undue advantage of the situation. We try as much as we can to get product from every source. We even have brought an idea to crowd buy, so that we can be able to get as much products into different retail outlets as fast as we can. So if I had the opportunity to meet with the president, those are the things that I'll be concerned to discuss with you. And we should penetrate do our gas dependence, give it a massive, attack to ensure that we have quite a lot of gas facilities around. And Petron is willing. We have quite a number of retail outlets that have very good forecourts across the country, and we are willing to partner, with the federal government, with the PCNG. By the way, congratulations to the new chairman. We are going to work with them. We're already making efforts to work out how Petron can become very helpful in the gas penetration.
Mr. Localizing, I do not want to put the problem of the federal government on your head. I wish we had the people from the presidency. They would respond to some of the things I have on my mind, because I do not think. Two things worry me about the action of this government presently. First, it feels to me, I may be wrong, that they had no plan for moments like this. Two, it's even more irresponsible that they are not even speaking in any shape or form. I've seen governments like China saying, minimize export. I've seen governments in the UK say, argue about whether they will use bailout to cushion the shock, or they'll use removing levies and taxes on net zero taxes and all of those things for maybe the production end, so that the consequential impact can be reduced at the pump price level. But for the Nigerian government, it feels like they just say, the body language is like, we deregulated, you enjoyed it at 700 and something, now it's 1,003, so deal with it. And I don't think that's a responsible way to lead a country. So let me speak to you for what you can respond. What kind of production incentive or in that value chain do you think can happen that would help the impacts on citizens in Nigeria? Because the twin policy of government, Nigerians are still feeling the shock. We can see the good numbers from the macroeconomic end, but it hasn't compounded down to the man on the street, and now this is an additional burden. Great work by the Oyo State governor for even giving a wage award or something. I don't know what it's called, 10,000 naira, just to cushion the effect. The federal government is not even saying anything. So talk to us about what can be done from your end. By your end, I mean from the midstream or downstream, if you can also extrapolate into what can be done in production to help, cushion the impact of this shock.
Well, in my opinion, I really don't think the government is not saying anything, that they are not coming out to the press to shout what they're doing does not mean that the government is not doing something. I'm very certain that the president we have is a very keen watcher and listener of events that facing Nigerians. And I believe that certainly his thoughts are how to keep reducing the burden of Nigerians. And I'm not risking to speak for the president or for the federal government.
Mr. Localizing, without trying to cut into your thought, that's why I said I don't want to bring you into the problem of the presidency. This is 24th of March. This war started 28th of March. We've seen bigger countries with bigger economies, with legacy issues sorted out. We are a developing country. We've seen them take action. They are even debating what form of action is good for its citizens. I stand on what I said, that this government is not responsive enough at this moment. At least speaking now, you're not running a cult, you're running a country. People are angry, people are agitated. They know you did not cause the problem. But what are you going to do to help the impact of the problem? That's what I mean, sir.
Well, for us, we're already doing what we need to do. We, first of all, we seek to make sure that our retail outlet stations are wet, regardless of the challenge. The challenge is enormous on us. When prices change, we must have to look for how to make the differences and then get our tickets in the system to be able to load our products to take to our retail outlets. Whether we're buying from those who have bought from Dangote that are reselling to us, or we're buying directly from Dangote, whichever way. That's one very critical thing that Petrol members are doing to make sure that our stations are wet and that petrol is available. And again, we are grateful to Dangote for making this possible in the country, because I don't know what would have happened if we didn't have a Dangote refinery in Nigeria at this time. The other thing that we are doing is also to still make sure, that our members try to put a human face to the business. So we are not taking undue advantage of the situation. Our prices, our margins are still very minimal. and we are not taking undue advantage of the situation. The other thing that we are doing is also advocating to the government, to the authorities, to do as much as possible to ensure that there is some kind of a palliative that is coming in to cushion this effect. Because at the end of the day, we all go to the same market, regardless of who you are. Whether you are, an executive, or you are the legislature, or you are the judiciary, or you are just the common Nigerian, we end up in the same bucket. So whatever that can be done to make sure that the prices of food don't shoot up, the price of transportation are kept within affordable range. So that's the other thing that we are doing, and I think we are doing it very respectfully and very productively. To call on the attention of the government to see how this can be done. So that's all that we can do for now.
Well, two questions as we wind down, Mr. Gillis-Harry. First, what is your cost makeup like, the mix? How do we have petrol selling at 1314? How did it get up to that point? What are the different components that make up that particular price? Because if we're able to see that, then we can say, okay, maybe this one we can tweak it a bit, remove it, so we bring down the price. That's on the one hand. Secondly, there are a lot of people seeing this play out and they say, aren't we stuck right now, just having to depend largely on Dangote refinery? I wonder if that makes any difference for you, particularly for those who are saying, well, we warned you, we shouldn't get to this point, there should be plenty options for us. Would that have changed anything in any way? So two questions, the mix of the cost and then having more players in that sector.
Well, I will start with the last question. The last question is very critical, that we're in a situation where today we have Dangote refinery being coming to the rescue. It's a welcome idea. It makes Nigeria stronger in this, in the Committee of Nations in the downstream operations, refinery space. However, it would be much better if we had every possible valve opened, and that's why we called on NNPC to get back to work and see how these refineries can just start to run to life. We are very aware that we followed through with the developments in the refinery, and we know how much support and how much encouragement we give to the NNPC management at the time to ensure that that refinery is working. Now, we still do, because we are their prime patrons. We are the ones that take from the refinery, and we still call on them to at least, first of all, look at those two refineries in Port Harcourt that we are already producing and still producing, I believe, at this time, even though we are told that it's commercially not viable, that they should run to life. And other refineries, private refineries that are coming, Bua Refinery, Ezekiel Refinery in Bayelsa, and a few other refineries in the pipeline, we should be able to see how this works. But it's not chicken change. The size of investment is humongous. So I can also tell if work is slow, maybe the source to get funding to do that is not coming as fast as it should. So that's what we say. I will still call on the authorities to give NNPC the best support to make those refineries to come on stream as fast as possible. And that is one solution that we think should be done. For our pricing of petroleum products, so let's just look at how I can explain it. You buy petroleum product from Dangote at 1,275 naira, and then you're going to pay the cost of logistics. The vagaries between the refinery and our retail outlets in far-flung areas of Nigeria is just very difficult to even imagine. But we are very grateful that we have Lupeng, we have NATO, and we have these two organizations helping us to ensure that we have our products safely arrive, even though sometimes it takes much more longer time than that. So just imagine the cost of that long haul and the logistics, therefore. So if in our retail outlets we are seeing products at, say, 1,300, look at the difference. The difference is very minimal. And I know that some because I'm in Port Harcourt today. 3 days ago, I was personally visiting as many of our members' retail outlets as possible. And I actually commended them because most of them were still selling at 1,279, 1,300, 1,310. And when you look at their landing costs, you can really tell that these are people that are patriotic, that are doing the best job. In Delta, in Bayelsa, in Cross Rivers, in Akwa Ibom, even as far as Nasarawa and Benue, where our members are very, effective in doing the business and ensuring that we meet the Nigerians, at that point where we can also beat our chest and say, yes, we are doing our own best to ensure that we give life to Nigeria's economy the way it's doing. So when you see prices rise up, they are directly commensurate to some of the very, very difficult expenses that come in along the, along the.
Now that crude prices have dropped at least 8–10%, we'll see a drop as well. Is that what we'll expect in maybe the coming days?
Well, I will tell you how that dynamic works, because at any time this becomes a major concern. We bought product at 1,275 naira, and then we have brought that product, or we have just lifted, or we have not even lifted, and suddenly the price drops. So just look at the math. That product that has been taken from the refinery at that price, that will come all the way, that the price dropped at the refinery did not suddenly change the input costs that you have made to bring it to a retail outlet. So if I'm to revise the question to you, what will you do? Will you suddenly drop the price to say 1,300, 1,030 naira? Because that price has just dropped.
But perhaps to respond to that, your subsequent purchases would become lower in price. That would be the implication.
Exactly. And that is why we use certain technologies. Well, in the coming months, for years, you know that we've been working together with channels and to develop our primaries. At the time we were doing the petroleum product passport. Now we have developed what is called PCAC Primaries. Primaries is the technology we are now using to be able to monitor our products for safety from loading to discharge. And it's also helping us to be able to track our products. So chances of products being stolen is also now going to be reduced. Now, with that technology, we should be able to know when our retail outlets, our members, have product in their station. And we can ask the proper question. Because if you don't have data, you cannot ask the questions or be able to call your members to order that, look, we need to sell this product at this price. And we are very concerned and patriotic enough to do that. I can assure Nigerians.
We hope that, that patriotism is all the way through, because if you do the mathematics, you're buying from Dangote at 1,275 naira per liter. It's difficult to believe that your logistics would only amount to about 70 naira in additional price and profit, because what we're buying is 1,320 naira. But apparently it's another conversation for another day. We must thank you very much for helping us bring these issues to light and help us understand the details. Mr. Billigis Harris is the president of Petran. Thank you for coming on the program.
Thank you so much for having us today. Thank you.
Well, let's hear from the chief producer in the mix, and that would be the founder and president of Dangote Refinery, who spoke after visiting Mr. President yesterday, and he expressed concern about the increasing price of petrol against the backdrop of happenings in the Middle East. So let's listen to Alhaji Aliko Dangote.
Much to do with it, but the world is a global village, and it definitely will affect us, unfortunately, but we pray this situation will be sorted out. It's not going to escalate. If it doesn't de-escalate, we'll end up paying, big prices. Like what I said earlier on to CNN, if you look at it today, Africa is very busy paying debt, and putting this again on top of us is going to add a lot of hardship on people, on the governments, on the people, on everybody. for something that we have no really any involvement in it. If you look at it now, when you talk about energy, energy affects almost everything, and it's not only energy. Some people will try and take a chance and say, this is an opportunity, so let me make money. So if this thing doesn't de-escalate, it is going to keep going up and up and up. And governments cannot really now go and add salaries also. So people will really, really feel the hinge. People who are now doing, barbers, people who are doing bread, people who have industries, who have to fire their own generator. You can see in some countries today what they've done, they ask everybody to work from home because they cannot, I think Indonesia also, they say no, only go to work 4 days a week, and they will look at the situation. If it doesn't improve, they will ask everybody not to go to work anymore. We will do like that time of COVID, where people will now go and work from home. So I pray, and we all need to pray that this thing de-escalates. If it doesn't de-escalate, normally we in Africa, we don't have any reserves in terms of savings or in terms of this. And so people normally go out and look for money for the next day or for the even same day, some of them. If they don't work that day, they won't eat. So I think really we just need all hands on deck to pray that this thing comes to an end.
So let's take a look at how the dailies are reporting the big stories. We're joined by Mr. Denny Fetaya, public affairs analyst. And Mr. Fetaya, we just listened to billionaire businessman Aliko Dangote saying, well, our hands are sort of tied. We can only play the cards we're dealt with. And he paints the reality of Nigerians, or at least a lot of Nigerians, who live from hand to mouth. And the Vanguard newspaper, Mr. Ifetayo, also follows up on that one, still painting that picture vividly. Middle East war, business closures, job losses loom. NECA, NLC, LCCI, ASBOM say soaring fuel prices could cripple economy, urge immediate government action to save situation. Consumers groan as petrol hit 1,371 naira per litre in Abuja, Lagos. Others, APC governors to roll out social interventions to cushion inflationary pressures. So my question is, it's almost a month since that war began. When will that social intervention be rolled out? Mr. Fetaya, the big story, you're not government, I'm clearly not asking you, but what do you make of this?
Yeah, good morning. It's my pleasure to join once again. Well, of course, what has happened. A responsive government should have been putting things in place. Not now we are discussing social intervention. I have never had them in any of their fora, just like you rightly mentioned, that the war is about going to about a month now, and there's nothing coming forth from the government that this is what we are going to do. A transport sector, we are going to roll out maybe LNG bus or reduce maybe those who are using train from one state to the other, cut the price by half. And also when it comes to food as well, that this is what they are going to do, especially for the farmer, those who are in the rural area, helping them with their food produce so that they can reduce the cost of food. It's just in Nigeria that we don't have maybe kind of welfare package for citizens in terms of things like this, which I feel that government can still do better. I'm sure most of them now, they are planning for their convention, they are planning for how they are going to be nominated, how they are going to be put forward for forthcoming election. So, and I think one of the responsibility of government is to make, apart from protection of life and property, is to make sure that the ease of earning a living is priority. Citizen welfare is number one priority, but I've not seen that in this government. But I just pray and I wish that since they said that they will soon roll out social intervention, they should do that. They said the stitches time saves life. So there's no delay on this. It's biting hard. Petroleum products, what I used to buy for 50,000, that's risen to almost 70,000 and all of that. So who is accounting or who is going to pay me? It's not as if they want to increase civil servant salaries so that they can mitigate against the hardship, the effect, adverse effect of this war going on in the Middle East.
We're hopeful, and it's very sad what I see from the federal government, but not just them, the state government as well. Because I think it's only Oyo State that has said they will give, I don't know what it's called, I just give it a name, more like an incentive of 10,000 for the next 3 months for workers, at least the public servants. Private sector people will have to deal with their own crisis themselves. But there are so many fiscal measures that can be done. So some incentives, some fiscal measures from the production, from the downstream end, from even, there's so many things. There are so many options on the table. But just seeing government borderline docile, in my view, as long as you have not spoken from 28th of March till now, I see it as borderline docile, whether you're federal, February, whether you're federal government or state government. All the state government have been shouting, money, money. The president has done well in making sure that our FAC revenue is quite, I can almost say borderline astronomical. What are they using the money for?
Even the massa, the LPA, there are several ways they can reduce the cost of the oil. I heard the man talking about the landing cost. For every vessel that battered at the port or that makes use of Nigerian waterway, there are heavy costs, charges they impose on these things. So I think in times like this, just like you said, and also tax and other levies can be reduced, slashed to 50%, so that the total cost or the overhead cost will not be borne by the citizen, because Nigeria is like, our economy is revolved around the oil and gas, so to say.
Yeah, exactly. I can list like 5 to 6 things that the government can do. And it's not as if they're not aware of these things. How they are not taking action just beats me. Anyway, let's go to this Nigeria. 868 million naira fraud. How ex-accountant general got 72-year jail term. Judge, he diverted defense funds into personal investment, laundered public money through proxy accounts. So we're seeing some good fight against anti-corruption. So the man has now been found guilty. If he doesn't appeal, he will spend 72 years. That means literally the rest of his life in prison. Because looking at the picture, I don't think he's anything less than 50 years old. What do you make of this story?
Yes, it's a good one, but I just hope that it becomes more popular, because the last time I heard something of this, it will have been almost 12, 14 years ago, that notable government official were jailed and all of that. So it's a good one to serve as deterrent, and also because some state governors that have been prosecuted in the past, we don't know the head of some of those cases and all of that, maybe because they are highly connected, or maybe what is obtainable in Nigeria sometimes has started to be corrected. Once you join the ruling party, you are bound to be given a soft landing. So those cases, I think they should be revisited, whether you belong to party A or you belong to party B. Corruption is corruption. If you embezzle money and there are clear evidence, and also our judge, they can as well continue to do better. Not that they will treat, sometimes in Nigeria, when it comes to corruption case, you think we have 2 different constitutions, one for those who are highly connected, and one for those, as we normally call, on your own. So it's a good one, and I think other public servants, whether elected or appointed, should learn from this, and they should make sure the Nigerian funds are used for fund. And can you imagine it's funds that are meant for defense, when we are battling with security challenges every now and then. So if you do the crime, you should serve the time.
The context here is, while it looks good that he's been sentenced to 72 years, well, it looks alarming. It's 8 years for 9 counts, so that is meant to serve them concurrently. So at the end of the day, it might not even serve as much as 8 years, and that's why Jeffrey referenced if there's an appeal or what have you. It's quite interesting to see, because you see 72 years, you're like, what?
Exactly.
Well, it's concurrent, isn't it?
Let's talk about more stories. Thank you for that, Ricardo. Let's talk about the same paper, deadly explosions. I want you to touch on 2 stories in one. There's political story, there's anti-corruption and all of that. Deadly explosions rock Niger, Niger, bridge destroyed, 8 killed. Insurgents kill, shift tactics to isolate border communities. Let's start with that, but I also wanted you to touch on the PDP preparing for its convention on March the 29th. But let's talk about this Niger and Kwara. Like they are the, will I call it the ground zero or the hot spots of insecurity besides, the up north? I'm talking about the middle belts now.
Yes, I would say it's been common. They are becoming the hotspots, Niger and especially Kwara, for the incessant attack or killing or activities of all these, whether Boko Haram or whatever they call themselves. Unfortunately, it's just a pity that, when you continue to do the same thing and expect different results, they say that kind of person is, don't let me use the word. So you can't continue to do the same thing and expect different results. I think the government should begin to measure up and have different approach. They've been talking about state police. They gathered, was it 2 days or over the weekend, state police. They are just paying lip service to this. We have a situation at hand. Before it will escalate to neighboring towns and city and state, I think they should arrest it. They said citizens time saves time. So government should come up with different approach and also localize. And I don't know, was it not in Kwara where I think the local government chairman, they came out to say that no, we don't want our allocation from federal government to be paid to us. Please pay to the state government, because of course maybe they are selected or appointed, as it were. Like they say, who pays the piper dictates the tune. So it's just all about their personal interest. If it doesn't affect them, they don't take it seriously. But I think our government can do better. It's becoming too many attacks, too many explosions, especially in Niger and what's it called, Ilorin, which is a Kwara state. Also talking about the PDP set convention, and there are still a lot of things that are still to come, because what if they do their convention just like the one we had in Ibadan, and somebody came up and say the ruling, or there's a ruling and say this thing should not have been heard by these caucus or this faction and all of that. But they know what to do to put their house in order. Let's see what days will unfold.
Well, as far as insecurity is concerned, when the explanation is put through that, in the Northeast, the insurgents are only desperate because of the pressure from the firepower of the military on them in the Sambisa forest and, environs. What about the North Central? What is the explanation for the constant attacks, in Kwara State, in Kogi State, and in Niger State? And so we're expecting to see, more deterrence in the attacks, on vulnerable populations, particularly in Nigeria's North Central. But let's check on other papers this morning. New Telegraph is our next port of call. And of course, insecurity is also the big story here. Spike in terrorist attacks. There's lapse in intelligence gathering analysis. And this is ascribed to AVM Adesoya. There are quite a number of writers here. As retired generals identify causes, prefer solutions, society approach key in war against terror. That's the former Chief of Army Staff speaking. Says Nigeria needs more troops because of vast landmass. Several feared killed in as bomb hits bus in Kwara State and terrorist bombs bridge linking communities in Bogu, that's in Niger State. Let's speak to, the big story in the caption, which is being ascribed to lack of intelligence gathering. Is that supposed to be the case, Mr. Adita, especially when you consider that there's supposedly a vibrant partnership between Nigeria's Ministry of Defense and the United States of America that has seen the arrival of U.S. Army officials into Nigeria, and of course clarification has been provided that they're not boots on ground, but they're here for military training and intelligence. So why is intelligence now the problem, according to experts?
I see that governance in Nigeria, is so the gap between the governed and the people who are in the position of authority, the gap is so much that anything security or intelligence gathering should be localized. I'm sure some of our elected or appointed leaders who, for example, they don't stay in their local community, weekend. Some of them spend most of their time in Abuja. Let me use Abuja for example. Some of them spend their time in the state capital of their respective state. They hardly mingle among those people who are their governed or from their constituency where they came from and all of that. So why would there not be lapse in the intelligence gathering? Regardless of, we have, yes, international ally, whether US or France or UK, that they are on ground for training and all of that. But you still need to localize intelligence gathering because it happens in our locality. So if there's anything they must do better is to close the gap between the citizen, between the grassroots, and those who are governing us. So those are the things that they should look into. Have what I would call town hall meeting, not only when there's election, you understand, involve the traditional rulers, which they spend more time with their people in their locality than those who, once they collect the internally generated revenue or their salary or whatever it is, they will travel to the state capital or they travel to Abuja, Sitwa for the state executive, and they don't know much of what is going on in their state unless there's a tragedy. So those people saying that they know what they are saying, but I think the government can do something about it to close the gap so that they can be closer to the local and get accurate intelligence.
Very interesting. I've heard narratives around some of the communities also being, well, either willing or otherwise, but being some sort of accessories facilitating this. Some have said a lot of them don't have a choice. They're literally coerced into this. But it needs us to be more holistic in our approach to fighting insecurity. But let's take a look at the Guardian, a newspaper. Guardian newspaper speaks to your health, my health, our health. TB, it's not treasury bills, it's tuberculosis, okay? TB gains at risk as funding gap, stigma, and malnutrition persist. And of course, this is in commemoration of World TB Day. The focus is on Nigeria. You see a breakdown right there on the front page. 73% funding gap undermines response, threatens drug supply. And you see budget shortfall, co-infection, there's TB, and there's also HIV, which is sometimes in the mix, complicating treatment and care. There's drug-resistant TB as well. We can talk about the health sector, infrastructure, logistics, limited access for some people, and even the stigma as well. It's 2026, and this is still very much a challenge, as you can see on the front page of the Guardian newspaper. Mr. Fetaya.
Yes, in as much as they recorded some gain, but funding is very crucial, especially when it comes in the health sector. I think the government too, whether local or state or federal government. They can still do more. Most of these funding we get from international donors, and of course, we all know when Donald Trump came in and cut off some funding to some international agencies and say we are no longer going to be doing this. But I think government can take the head of a nation. A healthy nation will bring about a prosperous nation. 73% funding gap undermine the response and threaten drug supply. It's not just all about we have the drugs, but are they getting to those that need it? And also there was a thing that government did about there are some terminal disease that if you want to receive the treatment from the federal or general hospital, whether it's been subsidized to almost reduce about to the maybe 10% or thereabout. I don't know. I've never seen anybody that came out and said we've enjoyed this, but they can still do that. We've recorded so much gain. They can build on that. Release fund come out even as today. Let's even hear what the Ministry of Health will be talking about when it comes to this. What are the channels that people who have these challenges where they can go, even set up a desk in their various local government in some strategic points and locations, even in the state and the federal government, or wherever it is, wherever you are, you can have access to quality healthcare service, especially when it comes to tuberculosis. But just like I said, there are more priorities to them, especially when it comes to things like this. But I think they should be more responsive to what they are elected to do, especially when it comes to the health sector. And also the funding, the budget allocation to the Ministry of Health and all of that. They should it should be increased, and not just only that. How do they dispense this fund? Were they meant for, or the release of fund? Were they properly utilized? So those are the things that should be we should be questioning. We should be asking questions. How much have been released to Health Ministry in the last 3 years, so to say? What are the things or infrastructure they build on guard to commemorate what they have received so far? So those are the things that we should be asking the government, and what are their plans, since they are saying, the experts are saying, the gain that we have recorded, we have risk when it comes to funding gap and stigma and malnutrition persist. What is government doing about it? I think they can come out today and say something and let us know the way forward.
There you go. At least this year, well, the drive is, yes, we can end TB, and it begins with the people. At least it will be driven by the people themselves. A couple of more stories on the front page. El Rufai to face multiple charges in federal and state courts, still on the front page of the Guardian newspaper. And we must make mention of this. Or your government issues heatwave alert, warns of health risks. And if you're staying whether in Lagos or any other part of the country, you may have noticed the excessive heat, which is exacerbated by the poor situation of power supply across the country. So really, this is about the environment. Yes, this is about paying attention to your health, making sure you stay hydrated. It's important never to take these things for granted. And as much as possible, once you see that you're getting weak, take a rest. But this is also about the poor situation of power in the country, because you have people now sleeping outside, literally leaving their windows and doors open. It's almost like punishment, Mr. Fetayo. Well, I know that you are not going through that, because you're maybe 1% of the 1%. But for the rest of us, how long do we have to endure this as a country?
It's just a pity that most of our government, just like anyone else or the citizen, we can identify the problem. But what are they doing about it? Since they privatize the power sector, so to say, and the collapse in electricity, just like I said, this thing in the next, when they make gate 2 steps forward, it's like we're coming back 3 steps backward. But it's everywhere. I got to Niger State yesterday. I had a bite of it, but of course, what can they do? Because if you have power in your house or your home or your offices, that's when you can bring a kind of bit relief. But I think they should do more of orientation, more advertisement on newspaper, radio, local station, television station, especially when it comes to being dehydrated, that, you are feeling weak, take a rest, take water, all those things should be, painted on our face. But just like I said, as long as it has nothing to do with the election, most of the time they just pay lip services to some of these things. I think these are the issue that should form electioneering, that should form debate going to the election in 2027 general election.
Well, yes, but the electricity bit, we must not lose sight of that. If we're in 2026, if this government has promised to improve power supply, and what we have is still epileptic and quite expensive as well, then that leaves so much more to be desired. Very bad taste, I must say. But Mr. Fetayo, we must thank you for your time. Wish you the best with the heat in Niger State. Stay hydrated. This is to you and by extension all Nigerians. We'll be speaking with Mr. David Fetayo.
Yes, of course. Thank you.
All right. Thank you for your time. And this is just also an advisory. I mean, you never overemphasize this, the fact that you need to stay hydrated. Try as much as possible not to do too much strenuous work. I know you're asking me, Kairi, I mean, every day is stress already, but you must find a way because your health is important. You must stay alive. You must stay healthy to be productive and to continue the work that you're doing. So from all of us here, we're asking that you maybe try to take it easy, and to employers as well. This is a good time to take it easy. As much as you want productivity, but you also want to ensure that your staff, members of staff are healthy. If they can work from home, absolutely allow them to work from home. Petrol prices are not smiling. If you're able to add something to what they earn, please do that. If you're able to even prepare a package, Jeffrey, we have organizations that will prepare a care package for you. They'll say, we know you are going through a lot, so take this care package and, use it to get by. Absolutely, let's do that.
I totally agree with you on that one, but mine is people that manage public funds. That's where I'm more interested in. The president and all of us have witnessed the fact that we're having record high numbers, at least in Naira terms, surging numbers for FAC allocation for states, federal and local government. What are the governors doing with that money right now? This war that none of us were part of, we did not sit down to agree that we're going to go to war, but that's the way the world works. We're impacted anyway, and we don't know how it's going to end. You only know when it's to start. Yesterday, Donald Trump, the president of the U.S., said, well, talks are making good progress. But Iran said, we don't even know what you're talking about. So the volatility is still on in terms of oil prices, dumping 10 on Brent, and of course, WTI on about 9%. And this morning, Brent is selling or trading over $100 and WTI less than $100. What I expect to carry is the fact that enough has happened. Some countries have even planned up to June, just in case. But the federal government of Nigeria, we've not seen any plan. You can't still be planning at this time. The state government, if the federal government is asking, what are you doing? There's only your state I've heard. I don't know whether there are other states. The civil servant, oh yeah, take this 10,000 extra, just so, add to whatever it is you're dealing with. That's an effort. It may not be enough, but it's an effort. That's what we call responsible and responsive. So please, as much as employers who have to do their part, because some do, the people that are managing our commonwealth, please take responsibility. At moments like this, the people need you. It's not just shouting around and seeking re-election. This is governance now. Do what you have to do. That's how it works. We'll take a break, guys. I'll be right back after this. Stay with us.
All right, welcome back. Just before we get right into the big conversations of the day, I mean, we've talked about the price of petrol and just how to get by and what the government must do. We're going to get into the politics of things as well. But let's tell you some of the big stories, of course, playing out outside the country. And this is a really sad one that played out when an Air Canada jet collided with a fire truck on the runway at LaGuardia Airport in New York City. And we understand that the pilot and the co-pilot died in this freak accident. Well, it's not an air mishap. It happened on the runway. And we all know just how delicate that sector is with communications. You know, once a plane is taxiing or about to take off, that particular route is closed. We understand that the radio person dropped the ball, admitted to that. But this is not something you'd expect to see on the runway, a collision. Goodness me, it's just a really sad one. And the videos just coming out online, it just shows you that moment of impact. It's really sad. I mean, what could the pilots have done? It was just last minute. They probably didn't expect it. And of course, naturally, we know that a black box, according to report, US officials say both black boxes recovered from fatal Air Canada runway crash. The pilot, Antoine Forrest, and Mackenzie Gunther died as a result of the collision.
It's very heartbreaking. I saw the video yesterday. And viewer discretion is advised, by the way. In case you haven't seen the collision, it was released, the video rather, it was released, I think yesterday or the day before yesterday, I can't remember, but I saw it yesterday.
It was yesterday.
Yeah, when this is an avoidable mistake. There's no way to explain this away. Two people have now died, the pilot and co-pilot, because it's literally almost a head-on impact. The whatever vehicle, what was that vehicle again? Was it, I've forgotten is it fire service? I've forgotten the nature of that vehicle.
Port Authority vehicle at
was coming from the left,
Airport.
Yeah. While the man was already, this was not taxiing, this was takeoff. So you can imagine the speed with which this aircraft was on, and the impact was just shocking. This is in places where we learn these things in terms of learning how to fly, learning how to manage the aviation sector. So it just shows that we're all human after all sometimes when these things happen. But this is just high-level carelessness that should never happen again. Thoughts and prayers are with the families of those affected. But I can imagine anyone being in that plane, the tension and the fear, because they will tell you from those, you know, we fly and they tell you that the most delicate part of flying is not when it's, you know, in the cloud. It's takeoff and landing. You hardly hear anything happens in the cloud. It's takeoff and landing. That's where prayers are up always. Anything that happens between those times is quite delicate.
Well, more details are emerging about the collision. According to the international media, it involved a Jazz Aviation flight operated on behalf of Air Canada. 41 persons were injured, and the LaGuardia is now closed and won't reopen until 2 p.m. A rather sad one. But there's more happening online and on the international scene that we're reacting to at this particular point in time.
It's important to note that LaGuardia has actually reopened.
Okay, because of the time difference.
As much as it's a sad thing, the airport can't remain closed for that long because there are thousands of people trying to use the airport. So it's been reopened now. And the irony is that those in the fire truck actually survived. Those in the fire truck survived. It's just the pilots.
Pilots that died, and the members of the aircraft, the passengers in the aircraft.
Yes, some of them were wounded as well.
Injured,
about 41. But they will be, discharged as well.
Okay, perhaps the report was capturing the time difference. So it's very plausible that the airport has now been reopened. But there's more coming through, and this time around we're headed to Netherlands, where something interesting is happening. The Prime Minister, according to, okay, we're not taking that one. Back home, Ikeja Electric is blaming gas shortage for Lagos power cuts amid customer backlash. And so Kadi was talking earlier about the weather, which is now being compounded also by, lack of power supply in many places across the country, not just in Lagos. And so explanations are beginning to come through. But my question is this also coming off of the back of the volatility of oil prices in the international market, which is affecting products in the value chain, not just petrol now, but gas? I remember that, of course, gas pipelines have also been affected amid this war. So if you're having inadequate power supply, power cuts intermittently, then perhaps the culprit would be inadequate gas, according to reports by Ikeja Electric. But of course, there are also other concerns that have been expressed in the last couple of weeks about government agencies owing the distribution companies to the tune of trillions of naira. So that is also part of the problem. And so that's that one that you're also talking about online, gas shortage affecting power supply.
Absolutely. I understand that aircraft was actually landing and not taking off. So I just need to put that right. Well, the power sector is one of the most epileptic. I don't know what it is about that sector, but speaking to the facts that are available, perhaps the war complicated it, but the bigger problem in that sector is liquidity issues, is infrastructure issue. We have about 30-something also power plants, about 13 or thereabout, are shut down. We have about 13,000 megawatts installed capacity. I think we do barely about, say, oscillating between 4 on a good day. We do 5 and plus, and when we do 6, whenever we are able to do it, we celebrate to the high heavens. And I understand from the experts that we need about 40,000 minimum to be able to power Nigeria. So the indebtedness, because there was a time when Band A was put in place, and the sector, I think the advisor to the president on energy, talked about the fact that that has brought in some liquidity and that guaranteed a few things, but we don't know what to believe anymore. We're hearing amounts between 3 trillion to 6 trillion. I don't know which to believe in terms of the exact amount, but it's a huge amount, because when you and I pay bills, it goes to the discos, it goes down like that. So the gencos who generate, the gencos need to pay the gas suppliers. So if anything happens to the very first port of call in terms of how things get to us, whether it's liquidity issue or supply issue from the gas end, is going to affect us. And we're a gas nation, surprisingly. We're a gas nation like Qatar. We have over 200 trillion, not billion, trillion cubic feet of gas in Nigeria that is in our reserve in terms of what God has deposited beneath our earth. We're not an oil nation. Oil is less than 40 billion barrels, about 36, 39, depending on which number you're looking at. So we have gas in excess, whether it's associated or other forms of gas. So how we've not been able to harness it has to do with the kind of investment we require and all of that.
That's the crux of the matter.
Yeah, the kind of investment that is required, and perhaps political will. I know governments at all levels, at that level, is doing their best to see what can happen. We're teasing the Honorable Minister of Power. Minister of Power that is using power bank. So what's the rest? What's the hope for all of us? I even realized that card is like my own Band A is being rationed as well. Because I realized from about 9 o'clock you don't have light till 6 p.m. Then you have light till the next 9. So my Band A is not Band A, but what were we told? We were told that if you don't have 20 hours, you can maybe sue or lay a complaint. So who is going to make up for whatever it is that is happening to all of us? So where do we start from? Investment?
Well, I think we're quite clear on what is playing out in the power sector, and I must say it's a very vague sector. As much as possible, the players in that sector keep their lips sealed, and that's one of the biggest challenges. But we know what's wrong. It's mismanagement, years and decades of mismanagement, not taking the people serious, because if you take the people serious, then this will be one of the most important sectors for you. You're not doing the people a favor. If anything, it is what you're meant to do primarily. Other things are secondary. If you're not able to provide energy, power for people to do their business, for people to run their lives, then you have not really done anything. You can talk about other achievements, but prosperity is, or at least power, energy is key to prosperity. So I think it's quite clear what has been playing out. Not taking people seriously, taking them for granted. I mean, we'll do anything, we'll keep quiet. The people will take it. I mean, they're fine with that. They've been taking it for decades, ever since we had NEPA. Imagine a child today still knowing what up NEPA means in 2026. So I think it's quite clear it's the irresponsibility in that sector, which we've seen just cut through across other sectors in the country. So that is that statement. A lot of people are experiencing this right now, and it makes a bad situation worse because we're experiencing a heat wave. The temperatures are unforgiving right now. So imagine what children are going through. Imagine what the elderly are going through. Then, of course, the businesses will need power. Everybody is affected. But hey, talk about 2027 and all the re-elections. That's what matters.
So what would it be? So unfortunately, I do not see us in let me not give up first. So let me retrace what I wanted to say. There are things that I know that this president has tried in terms of his direction. But this power thing is one of his failures. Not totally his, but because he's the president and whatever is failing under his administration is his failure. He had promised, I remember when he went to Chatham House, he said the current things we're doing with the sector, I'm paraphrasing him now, that is not tenable, it's not workable, using my own term, but it's a broken system and he will fix it. The president's approach, my understanding, may be that decentralizing generation distribution may be his approach, but that hasn't really changed much in terms of the output and outcome. How many of these states that are rushing to say they have sex are able to really manage that sector? So in general, if there's this situation of power, because if you want to develop, everybody will tell you, any serious country, besides a rule of law, which is the lowest hanging fruit, that you just need to discipline people and uphold the law. The other part is production has to be driven by power. As long as power is not working, you cannot do much. So any country that doesn't have power sorted out to a large extent is not ready for business. No matter how much you want to convince any investor, the investor is not stupid. You know, it's exactly because power is a cost component that is super significant in any business you do anywhere in the world. So at our level, if we had the power available, what would have been debating is tariff in terms of cost. Oh, it's too expensive, can we bring it down? That would be the difference between party A and party B. Party A will say, we'll bring it down by 20%, party B. But now we're even talking about, is it even available? So, Mr. President, you promised that you're going to fix power. He said, if you don't do it, that you should not be voted for. If I saw that video, I want to be sure I saw that video.
Perhaps, we should begin to, demand at electioneering times and seasons that there should be a condition attached to the protocol around accountability, especially with interface with the media and the civil society. For instance, Jeffrey, you always talk about some ministers whose names are not even known because they're inactive. And so we're talking about power, we're talking about the gas component of power, why Nigeria has not been able to harness its gas potential, which are huge in deposits, not even in billions, but in trillions. And we do have a Minister of State for gas. In 2024, I believe, the president inaugurated, yes, of course I know his name, the president inaugurated a gas processing plant in Imo State, I believe. And so 1 year down the line, what's the progress report on that gas processing plant? What is the measure of production? What is the output that is coming out of that gas processing plant? We do have, a gas company also in the country, the NLNG. Those are the questions that we should be asking. But it appears as if there is no interface with the relevant agencies, who are tasked with the responsibility of providing solutions and interventions in this area of production. And they're supposed to have, a key performance index as well attached to their performance. So should we henceforth begin to say that, regularly, quarterly, there's a progress report, delivered not just to the administration, but to the Nigerian people that they have been employed to serve, and say, this is how further we have gone in these areas of service to the Nigerian people. And so it appears as if we should begin to review that aspect. And of course, we would like, regular interface with Mr. President as well, perhaps an opportunity, to ask Mr. President, how far with this promise that you made to the Nigerian people, power supply, for instance. So should the Nigerian people begin to review their election of this president in 2027 in line with the promise that he made himself, that if I'm unable to deliver power supply, then don't vote for me?
On the engagement, I wanted to ask.
From Mr. President in a while.
I think it's not just one media chat.
Absolutely.
I think one, if I remember, just one. There's something wrong with African leaders and leadership. And I said it with a very great sense of respect, not disrespect to anyone. But I'll use my country as a point of contact for people who use spiritual terms. I do not know how leaders feel that. I don't know whether we made them who they are, or is a creation of us, where the leaders, say the president, for instance, does not feel the need to always engage the people. I'm not talking about some people coming to visit you in the villa, and this is, they all do it, whether it's Obasanjo, former President Obasanjo, Yar'Adua, Goodluck Jonathan, Muhammadu Buhari, now President Bola Tinubu. We can almost count how many times they engage the media, which is the fastest way you can actually engage. But if you see developed countries, I always like to use the US and the UK, because when these politicians want to compare, when is the other part they will compare and then leave some part. Trump is jumping on the Air Force One, he's talking to the media. He's getting into his helicopter to the airport, he's talking to the media. He's inside the aircraft, he's talking to the media. He's on a foreign soil, he's talking to the media. But somehow, we need to wait for a special day when we'll gather some of our journalists, senior journalists gather, and then we're asking questions, waiting for responses. And it just doesn't make sense. So for instance, that is why the ministers themselves have taken a cue. Maybe not all of them, because some of them, if you call them, they show up. Taking a cue from the president, and they are not engaging. I even heard the president at some point telling them, go and engage at the end of the day. And I'm going to put a lot of people on the spot on this one, because at the end of the day, the minister, for instance, the minister of State for Petroleum, Enekin Lokbobri Oil, I've not heard him say anything, that has made media rounds as far as this whole Iran war is concerned. You just mentioned Ekperikbo. I don't even know how many times that gentleman has done interview, ever. I don't know how many times he has even done any form of interview, ever. Maybe he has done, but not significant enough. And we're a gas nation. So at the end of it, looks like, let's even go back, spokesperson. So the other day, Daniel Boala went, and what happened with Mendy. But on one hand, he's one of the only, perhaps the only among the three spokespersons of the president who is always available at the shortest notice to show up and engage with the public. You may criticize him, Boala's character, Boala's credentials, Mendy, this, that. But at least he's one. There is Sunday Dari, who is media and publicity. I think that's his work. There's Boala, who is media, policy communication. There's also Egbonabayo Nanuga, who is the information and strategy also. You don't see the other two. You only see Boala. So I am just sick and tired of leaders that don't feel they have to speak to the public on anything. Because if they don't speak, what else can happen? Just nothing will happen after all. So this is me just saying, guys, gentlemen, you're leading a people, you're not leading a cult, you're leading a country. Come out, engage. It mustn't be here, it may be anywhere. Engage. Let people ask you the questions that citizens want to ask you. And you can position yourself for even better than running away or not even showing up at all.
You know what this means? It basically just means a lot of them don't have the answers. It's when you have answers that you present yourself for questions. It's quite simple. I don't. But you want to put me wrong.
Why are they there?
That's
why
a big
are they
question.
holding the office?
But we'll take a quick break now. I know these are very important issues that you probably can resonate with. We'll give you a list of some of these office holders. Some names you've probably never heard before. You don't even know they're in government, and there are 49 of them. But We'll take a moment now. When we return, we'll talk about the politics that influences the governance of things. And incidentally, we have an aide to the president joining us. So stay with us.
Welcome back. Let's talk to the senior special assistant to the president on community engagement Northwest, Mr. Abdullahi Yakasai. He joins us from our Abuja studios. Mr. Yakasai, it's good to see you. Good morning and welcome to the program.
Good morning. Thank you so much for having me.
Before we jump into politics, we just spoke about the, I'm trying to use a very cautious word, the lack of sense of accountability of people in government as it relates to engaging with the media as regularly as possible, whether it's the president or the ministers, as I said, some ministers show up more than the others, or even governors. There are governors I can count. I know of a particular governor that has only done one interview since he became governor. So I can go on and on. So I would like you to speak on that, because now you're here to talk about politics. We can't just be coming out to talk about politics. Politics paves the way for governance. At the moment, there's so much expected in governance from this government because of the oil price and all of that. So maybe talk to us, what exactly is the problem? Because we can just sit here and permutate and say, they are not responsible, they are not accountable. But you're in the presidency. Why don't people from that area come to speak? And I'm going to put a proviso. Among the three spokespersons of the president, without holding brief for him, only Boala shows up most of the time.
Okay, thank you so much. I think it is the responsibility of the media houses to be inviting, at your will, to be inviting people on relevant programs and policies of this administration of His Excellency Bola Ahmed Tinubu. I got a call from you, Mr. Kayode, and yesterday night I said I'm coming. So I think the presidential media team is there under the Honorable Minister of Information, that is His Excellency Mohammed Malagi, and then the essays to the President of Media are there, Mr. Bayo Nanuga, Sunday Diary, as well as the Boala you've been talking about. So it's more or less like, because Boala has a controversy, he was in opposition and now he has moved to APC, maybe you invite him most of the time. But I feel if you invite them, they will surely turn up and they'll come here.
I would like you to, I understand what you're saying, but just stick to what you know. Before we came to say what we said, we've said we can show you our messages, so we know exactly what we're talking about.
Okay.
All right? So I'm just saying, I'm not trying to put words in your mouth. I'm just saying, could there be a reason? It's not, go to every media house. It's our job. What else are we doing if I'm not calling you to come and explain how you govern the people? That's our work. We can show you messages.
But you've called me and I'm here.
That is you. That is you. We're just talking generally now.
Unless maybe if somebody has a genuine reason, but I don't see any reason why with these laudable programs of Mr. President, I see no reason why the people in the government will not come up and speak up to the media about the policies and the programs. So I think there's no any reason besides the fact that maybe there's commitment on their side for them not to turn up. But I believe the minister is there, the SSs are there, the SAs are there, and then the heads of the different ministries, departments, and agencies, whatever relevant topic there is in, I think people should come up and speak about the policies and programs.
All right, Ms. Ayakasai.
We'll do more. We can't do, I'm sure we're not doing 100%, but we'll keep improving and be letting the Nigerians know about these laudable programs. So anytime you have time, if you have anyone that you couldn't get his number, I'll help you bring them onto your station.
Well, I'm happy for that commitment. We also have direct access to these people. So, so we know what we're saying at the end of the day as far as this is concerned. I even say the president doesn't talk to the media as often. He only talks to the media whenever he has people in the villa. When you look at the way Trump is always engaging the media, maybe it's a presidential culture in Nigeria. But we'll move away from that as a matter of fact. Let's talk about politics, which is one of the favorite topics politicians like to talk about. Now we have seen those movements. You've seen the convention. Everybody's trying to get ready for the convention across party lines. But let's stick to your party, the APC. The other day we saw some alignments, or would you call it realignment, if you will. Kwankwaso is in the NNPP, although he's lost the governor to the APC. The president has also perhaps made moves, I do not know, to engage him, or the APC has made moves to engage him, because getting Kwankwaso, at least you can guarantee some good numbers, and politics about numbers. But we've also seen the ADC, or some of the people in the ADC, move in that direction yesterday or 2 days ago and at the Kwankwasia event. And so there's a lot going on as far as that is concerned. Is the president concerned, or the APC concerned, about what is playing out, especially in a state like Kano? Let's begin with Kano first, and then we can talk about national.
Okay, let me start by saying Kano, as it is now, our governor, His Excellency Kabir Abba Yusuf, has joined our political party, the APC. And this is to our advantage, because if you look at it, his joining the ruling party has brought about fundamental political gravity to Kano politics, because the senators that are in Kano, after the 2023 elections, we had only one senator from Kano, that is distinguished Senator Barrow Aijibur. But after that, the senator from the Kano South, that is Senator Kawu Sumaila, came back to the APC. So they are left with one senator. And then if you look at the House of Representatives, the governor moved with 8 House of Representative members. Kano has 24 House of Reps members. He moved with 8 with our own that he met in the APC. We have about 20 out of 24. Then the advent of the coming of the governor, where we have 44 local governments in Kano State, all the chairmen of those 44 local governments are now in APC. Then the State House of Assembly, where we have 40, 22 came with the governor, and already we have few in the state. Then the Kano wards are 484, and all the councillors in those 484 are now in APC. So if you're looking at the trajectory towards 2027 election, I would say Kano is now well positioned, because in the politics of the North, Kano is very significant and is fundamental, because it swings a lot of states like Katsina, like Jigawa, Kaduna. So I think APC in Kano State, we can't thank God enough. That is one aspect. Then the second aspect is what happened in Kano, the movement of Abba from NNPP to APC is like a political coup, because we have, cut off the head of NNPP in Kano, and all the structures are now with the APC in the state. So the advantage of this to the APC is that now the funds that NNPP were using were the Kano State funds to do their town hall meetings, to do their rallies, to do a lot of things like community engagement across the 44 local governments. Now they don't have that resources again in Kano. So this will more or less give APC in Kano State a whole lot of advantage, so to say. Then if you look at the alignment of the governor, because he's moving to the ruling party APC, he has now aligned with the center. And by aligning with the center, this will tell you that a whole lot of projects will now be coming to Kano, because immediately the governor moved in. We've seen how he was able to convince the president on a very laudable project, because Kano is being choked up now with massive population explosion. So we've gotten the metropolitan rail line being approved by the federal government. There's the road infrastructure that has been given the state a big challenge because of the voluminous nature of the funding of that project. Federal government has stepped in to see how that project can be actualized. So this is the number 2 point I want to tell you, that we have positioned ourselves very well.
Mr.
Then the
Yakasai?
third one I want to mention is the fact that...
Mr. Yakasai?
Hello?
Why would the ruling APC deny Kano State of these rights in development prior to their defecting to the ruling party?
It's not that they were denied. It's just because he's not like aligning with the center, and so the times he normally has to engage with the center, he doesn't have it that much. But now he sees the president frequently. The day before yesterday, he was with the president. Yesterday, they were with the president before they left for Adama to receive the governor of Adama State. And today, he's together with the progressive governors, that's one of them, and going to Zamfara State to receive the Zamfara State governor. So, I mean, it's just like you now having a child, and then you said you won't feed that child, you go outside feeding others. They get their statutory allocation monthly from the Federation account. That's the whole 36 states of the Federation. But being that you're in APC, you have the chance to present and defend projects that you need federal government intervention.
Mr. Yakasai?
Federal government has the right to intervene in states.
Mr.
And it
Yakasai?
has done so in other states, not only APC states, which I can give you examples.
Are these projects the right of these states or not?
They are the right of every state, so long as you can present it,
so why is defection,
and you can convince the federal government.
Why is defection a precondition for benefiting from these development projects? That is,
I'm just telling you, it's not a precondition. It's just because you have the liberty to, because you're aligning with the center, there's a whole lot of benefit to it. Just like I gave you example. The people within your personal house will get to have more access to you, more whatever it is, resources, whatever, for you to share with them before you even look at outside. So being in APC has helped us to pull these projects to the state. A lot of other opposition states have gotten projects, interventions from federal government, but I'm telling you, if you align with the center, there's a whole lot of advantages to it.
You're just talking semantics. Until you align before you have access to the president. And so the answer is not satisfactory. But let's move forward. Wherever you turn, either it's the north central, or it's the northeast, or it's the northwest, there is a very huge challenge of insecurity. And the APC government, not just the Tinubu administration, rode to power on the promise of change and capacity to solve Nigeria's security challenge. It also rode to power on the promise of changing the narrative as far as power supply is concerned. If you look at the economy, yes, the ruling government is reporting success in the area of macroeconomics, but it's not trickling down in terms of development. And now we are having added to the mix of these challenges the instability in the Middle East that is trickling down back home, seen in the increasing pump price of petrol. Based on all these challenges, we can say that the ruling party has not delivered on its promises. And so should this government be re-elected in 2027 based on this long list of failures that we're enumerating?
You see, the type of insecurity that is bothering this country is a guerrilla warfare. It's very hard to tackle. We've come from this long time back. It's been happening, and you can't just blame this government for it. But what I want to say is the security situation in some parts of the country have really been subdued, you know. But there's some elements of new tactics coming up, like the ones we're seeing in Kwara State. Very unfortunate. Even the president is having sleepless nights because every week or every other week you see him having a Security Council meeting. This happens almost every week in the presidential villa. And why is he having this meeting? Is to see how to curb this insecurity. So you cannot, when you're fighting insurgents, it's not a direct war that is confrontational. You wouldn't know from where they will come. And I'm telling you, there's hand in, this kind of insecurity issues. We cannot just say is a coordinated, insecurity situation where you have to blame. There are some elements that are, against this government that are instigating this kind of insecurity situation just to give the new government a bad name. But I'm telling you, Mr. President is not happy with the situation because some places where we know there was this massive insecurity, like between Abuja to Kaduna, it has really subsided. Now we don't see that insecurity challenge in those areas. And then this in Zamfara State, for example, hardly do you hear these days there is that insecurity. But they've changed tactics because it's guerrilla warfare, just like I said. They've changed tactics and now they moved away from those areas. They've moved, to Niger State, Kwara State, and immediately Mr. President appointed the IG of police. His first point of call was to go to Kwara State, and not only to the capital, Ilorin, he went as far as to Kayama, where these incidences are happening. So we're doing our best as the government, but we know a lot needs to be done to curb this insecurity, and I believe with time, by God's grace, if all hands are put on deck, it will continue to come down till we get to eliminate the insecurity situation.
Right, so you've talked about, or at least you've said that the APC has laudable projects, Mr. Yakasai, and really the desire is that the electorate is much more clinical in their approach to selecting who they will vote for. So it's not just about dancing and all of the things we see during campaigns. It's about the hard facts. So I want you to speak to one of those hard facts, because you'll be selling this party yet again to the people in your region and to Nigerians. In terms of what this government has done, case in point, the recent hike in the price of petrol. Petrol now sells, and I know it sells for much more in the northern part of the country, but in the south sells for 1,300 and more. We've seen other governments in other countries do different things just to ensure that that pain is eased on the citizenry. So let's use this as an example. So sell this APC government to Nigerians based on its response in the past 1 month to the war in Iran and by extension the price of petrol here in Nigeria.
Okay, just yesterday I saw the chairman, the president of Dangote refinery, His Excellency Aliko Dangote, was with Mr. President in Lagos, and he went to see him on these issues. And what Dangote said was part of these measures we have to look at, because this is a global challenge. It's not just Nigeria. The whole world over, this issue of the Middle East crisis has affected everyone in terms of energy sector. So one of the things I had Aliko Dangote suggestion is for us to see how we can maybe make people work from home. This will make them maybe come like twice to the offices physically, and then they can work virtually, so that we reduce the burden in that aspect. But be it as it may, we have already, from day one, Mr. President has said subsidy is gone, and it is gone. The only thing that people will want to see is the advent of bringing back that subsidy, because if Aliko Dangote is a private developer, and anywhere in the world now, the price of crude has never gone up to this magnitude, to about $120 dollars per barrel. So that means you have to sell Aliko Dangote crude oil, or we buy crude oil from elsewhere, at this price, and then subsidize it to Dangote refinery for him to sell at the previous price, which was obtainable before the crisis in the Middle East.
All right.
And we can't go back to subsidy. To be honest with us, we can't go back to subsidy. This is a temporary challenge. And I think over time, once the crisis is over, things will go back to the way they are. So we have to think outside the box and see how we can manipulate, how we can go around this issue of the crisis in the Middle East.
Yeah, I wish we had more time with you so that we can engage you further. While you're saying you're thinking outside the box, you're still thinking some countries are planned till June already. But I must thank you for your honesty. However, some of your admissions by how politicians run countries, shameful, obnoxious, and offensive to the spirit of the Constitution. You admitted about, the NNPP using state resources. Now, all of that will go to APC. So APC perhaps will now use state resources, being partisan in economic intervention because you have to connect to the center. If you read section 16, subsection 1 of the 1999 Constitution says, the state shall, within the context of ideals and objectives for which provisions are made in this Constitution, control the national economy in such a manner as to secure the maximum welfare, freedom, and happiness of every citizen on the basis of social justice and equality of status and opportunity. So all of this intervention, because you're partisan, is against the spirit of the Constitution, and it's very shameful. But we must thank you for your honesty. You're the second person from Kano that is admitting to this. Thank you, Mr. Abdullahi Yakasai, Senior Special Assistant to the President on Community Engagement, Northwest. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much.
We'll take a break. We'll get to the point of accountability, what played out in courts, and what it means for you and I. Stay with us.
Welcome back, and so let's get right into it. This time we're looking at the anti-corruption war of this administration, and as far as that is concerned, quite a number of things are happening at the same time. There is the continuing trial of the former Attorney General of the Federation, Abubakar Malami, of course, who had an engagement, or if you like, more appropriate, an altercation with officials of the anti-graft agency yesterday following actions to seal some of his properties, which he disagreed with. And he's spoken to that to say that, evidently this is a political witch hunt, that he has the right to express himself politically, and that is his fundamental human rights. There is the potential arraignment of the former governor of Kaduna State by the Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Commission, and that's happening. And not forgetting, the potential trial following the suit instituted against him by the DSS. But another one came through yesterday, which is the conviction of a former acting accountant general of the Federation, Chukwunyere Nwaboku, to 79 years. Of course, it will run concurrently when you look at the details of that. And so that has a lot of implications. How just, how fair is the anti-corruption war of the current government? And joining us on the program today, this morning, to look at all of this critically is the Executive Director of Connected Development, Mr. Mukhtar Modibo, who joins us from our Abuja studio. Mr. Mukhtar, thank you for joining us on the program.
Thank you for having me.
Let's begin with the report about the conviction of a former accountant general of the Federation, which is quite worrying. If you look at the details, it is said that some of these crimes were committed while he served as an accountant in the Ministry of Defense. He's said to have voluntarily refunded part of the siphon money of over 200 million naira during the investigation. And he committed these crimes while he served as Director of Finance and Accounts in the Ministry of Defense. Now, your organization is tasked with following the money. Help us understand how some of these atrocities may have been committed, and relatedly now through other agencies, but this is a critical one. Could this have been done without him being in cahoots with other officials in the Ministry of Defense?
All right, first of all, I think we all need to understand that this is one of the cases that just came out. I know there are quite a number of convictions that EFCC and ICPC have gotten, quite a number of recoveries in billions. You know, quite a number of cases are still in court. That's to tell you that we have massive numbers of this kind of cases. I think one of the major things we should be talking about now is we should be talking about the preventive measures. Before we get to this particular place, we should know how we can prevent these cases from happening. Because as citizens, we're not looking at how much we're refunded or how much we're looking at how much impact does this have. This is a Ministry of Defense. We're talking about someone that serves as an accountant in the Ministry of Defense. You know, obviously, we have a prolonged issues of insurgency. So that is to tell you that the money that was funded or looted had something to do with the insecurity issues that we're facing as a country. So nobody can tell you the impact that those resources could have been if they were allowed to follow through the system. But one person siphoned, and then, you know, he's now facing the deal. So I think we all need to understand that fighting corruption or anti-corruption war is not for the government, it's for each and every one of us. And each and every one of us need to just put hands together and do. Yes, there have been massive level of successes, but I think we have a lot of policies, but the implementations of these policies have been something else. Yeah, we've seen improvement. You know, the sector have seen some level of improvement from the new leadership in EFCC, and then that level of conversation of increase in tracking by the ICPC. I think they have covered almost 344 MDS for now. But that issue of independency of the anti-corruption agencies, as well as the independency of the judiciary, is still lingering. And then the issue of, you know, people from the opposition feeling, you know, the whole war is against the opposition is also still lingering. So I think the major thing we should all understand is this fight is for all of us, and all of us need to join hands together. And this is only one case. I think there are quite a number of cases that have been lingering for more than 5, 6, 7 years in court, and we're still waiting to see what impact will these resources make, and then how these people will be punished for the atrocities they've done.
So my question is, how or why is it easy to commit such crime? I mean, it will be understandable if it's a one-man business, right? If it's a sole proprietorship where nobody's seen what you're doing. But for someone with that kind of career, these crimes are said to have been committed prior to even when he became the Accountant General, which didn't last for more than, I think, 3 months in 2022, was appointed in May and removed July. Now, he was appointed because the former Accountant General, who has a case in court for over 109 billion naira, was also suspected of the same issue. So it looks like if you look into the system right now, you'll find a lot of these people. And I wonder, why is it easy, that easy, to commit such crimes with our Commonwealth? It is not sole proprietorship. It is not a small-scale business. It is a nation.
Yeah. So Kaide, the truth is we have weak procurement system. We have a very weak contracting system, and then the entire system. It's not been, these atrocities are not being done by one person, but most of the times, you know, when investigations are going on, you know, the whole thing get to unfold. You know, if you look at history, if you look at all the cases that we've had, let me say maybe cases that have had plea bargain over the years, from the cases of the Alamisi, the former governor of Bayelsa, to the case of the former governor of Edo State, and also the case of the former Inspector General of Police, you could understand that, oh, these people came out to, you know, accept something and then refund some level of resources. But that is to show that some people coordinated that effort. So what I'm trying to say, it's not just about the system, it's about who are the people that play in the system. And if the system have some level of gaps, you know, people override or use that level of gap to commit atrocities. So this is someone that have stayed for some level of months, was able to do all this. And if you remember, he was appointed because someone that was occupying that particular office did something, And we've seen cases in the anti-corruption cases like the scandal with the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, both the minister that left and then the one that came on board. All of them had some level of financial irregularities. And if you look at the irregularities, were around the weak systems, from procurement to the contracting, and then some level of bureaucracy and then political interference that has happened. So if we look into the system and understand the gaps within those systems and try to merge them, use technology and other things to mend them, there are other, it's a personal conviction. Being good is not a day thing. I think you have to look at credibility and over time. So it's not a one-man thing. It's a systemic issue, and I think we need to be deliberate and be systematic in addressing those issues.
So, Mr. Amadibo, there's something I want you to help us intervene on. So let's use the past successive governments. If you can see that when Muhammadu Buhari came in, God rest his soul, some of the guys that worked under Dr. Goodluck Jonathan, former President Goodluck Jonathan, faced litigation, Sambo Dasuki and the rest of them. Now Muhammadu Buhari has served his time, he's left the world. A couple of his people, like Malami and the rest of them, are facing their time. So we expect that when Bola Tinubu finishes his administration, some of the ministers we're seeing or others will also face their time. So that I had to bring this in to say, how do we separate real fight against anti-corruption from political witch hunt? That's question number one. Question number two, how come that we can get a couple of other, permit me to use the word proxies, to be littered to the courts, they face trials, some of them get jailed, some escape or plea bargain, but we never get maybe former president, former governors, who are the ones who do these approvals? Maybe you can help us intervene in those two. So first, question on real fight against anti-corruption, against political witch hunt, and against the top people that Nigerians will want to see in jail by their own perception, not being in jail.
All right, so first of all, if you look at what is happening to presidents and governors and what have you, is that level of immunity that they have. And one of the first things I said earlier is, I think we need to look towards preventive measures, right? Rather than, what we're looking at now. You leave the office before things will do. So there's a thin line between competition and collaboration, right? So there's also a thin line between that political witch hunt and then the real fight against this whole thing. I think if we strengthen our systems, right, that will prevent these issues from happening. And to me, if you ask me, so it is normal for us to have a president going on trial because he is the one that approves some of these resources, or governors going on trial. But the immunity, that's what we have. And one of the first thing I will call is, if we're looking at amending our constitution, these are things that we should look at if we really want to be deliberate in fighting corruption. Because most of the times, as citizens, one of the first things we look at is, if someone goes through a plea bargain, I'll give you an example with that. It speeds the process. It gives the process some level of efficiency to recover resources. But as citizens, we don't know how much this money is, and then how much were refunded, and what is the impact of those things that were refunded. A governor that had issues with some level of billions and is returning some percentage of it, and maybe those money were meant to be for primary schools, for pupils from maybe primary 1 to primary 6, and that was not given, and now he's refunding a part of it and what have you. Look at the other case. So there are a lot of cases. I think we need to strengthen our systems and then also look at the fight against corruption. We're still on the perception index, we're still at around 149. That's to tell you we are moving, but we're not moving the way we're supposed to do. So I think for us to, for us to achieve this, we need to be deliberate and we need to be systematic. And in being deliberate and systematic, we need to mobilize and decentralize information so that people are aware of what the government is trying to do, and people are also supporting the government, trusting the government. Because it's another thing for government to say we're fighting corruption, and it's another thing for people to trust and believe that the system will fight the corruption. So, because it's a belief that everyone that is out of government and is not pro-government automatically gets into the radar. But I don't think that is completely right, because we've seen the case that happened with the present minister. I mentioned it earlier, that's the Beta Edu case. Yes, in as much as the case was a public conversation, she was suspended, she went to EFCC from there, everything died off. Nobody knows what happened. Nobody knows what is the remedy, what is the punishment, and what have you. And that's what people will look at. Most of these cases that you hear about, I mean, I don't want to really go into cases because they are still in court, but you don't hear anything in the public, and it leaves public with a perception where there is no real information, misinformation comes in, right? And that's one. The second question you asked about the proxy and what have you, I think everything is about weak system, and it's around how people believe the system. We all need to believe in this system because we only have Nigeria at hand, and we all need to join hands together to run a race and then win the race together. I think that's the basic thing. We need to address our weak systems, the gaps that we have, and we need to also be more active in preventive measures, not, prosecution, recovering of looted funds, or, we need to put check and balances into our system, and we need to effectively follow up and get feedback on these check and balances, and then we need to, continue to do participatory governance so that everybody is in check and everybody understands what the government is trying to do.
Well, we hope that the system itself is not encouraging this corruption, because the chairman of the FCC had said in the past in a different fora that, some of these politicians cannot steal without the active participation of civil servants themselves. And, the biggest conviction that we have recorded happened with a former civil servant in the Ministry of Defense. And so we hope that the anti-corruption fight is as thorough as possible. But we must thank you very much for coming to bring your own insight into this very important subject matter. Mr. Mukhtar Modibo is the Executive Director of Connected Development. Thank you for coming on the program.
Thank you for having me.
And that sums it up on the program today, but perhaps we'll have just one more offering before we close.
Well, speaking of air disasters, there was yet another in Colombia that killed 66 people, just barely recovering from the one reported at LaGuardia Airport. But this one's death toll is way more. And these people lost their lives after a military transport plane carrying 128 people crashed shortly after takeoff in Colombia's Puerto Leguizamo on Monday. The head of Colombia's armed forces, General Alejandro Lopez Barreto, said that dozens were injured in the incident, adding that 4 military personnel were still missing. That is a Hercules C-130 transport plane right there, including 115 people from the Army, 11 Air Force members, and 2 from the National Police.
Quite sad and heartbreaking, but that's it on the program. I'm Jeffrey Uzama. Bye-bye.
Sunrise Daily is up next, so stay with Channels Television. There's more. I am Bukola Koka.
I'm Kaido Kikele. Goodbye.